Hello and welcome to another edition of Tech Talk with Gomer from Gomish Technologies. Today we're going to try to tackle something I would say maybe is a little bit more of a concept than a subject. And it's something that almost everybody's heard of. It's something that very few people understand. And we're going to try to put it down into layman's terms so people that are unfamiliar with the whole thing can, when they hear it in the news or something, they go, okay, I get what's going on. And that is Bitcoin or CryptoCurrency. And ooh, yes, sounds crazy, right? Just computers plugged in making currency? How does that work? Well, let's start off by defining currency. Many eons ago, there really wasn't much of a form of currency, and the way that you got things that you didn't have that someone else could maybe make or acquire for you was bartering. You exchanged either goods or labor, and then you got what it was you were wanting, be it an item for your home or clothing or an implement for your job, something like that. Someone else would make that for you, and you would barter in order to pay them by doing some work for them. Say if you're a baker and they're a blacksmith and you wanted a plow, you would bake goods for the blacksmith and he would make you a plow and you would exchange. That's a barter system. And it worked well because people understood that certain jobs were very difficult and carried with them an inherent value that was much higher than some other jobs. And, certain career fields, so to speak, were more valuable just because of how difficult the job was. Now, move forward, closer to modern times, and there became too much society in order to do just nothing but bartering. And there were also some people that maybe they weren't so good at a trade, but they were good with other things that the public may not necessarily want, or just basically the form of trade wasn't a viable means of getting the items, goods, or services that you wanted. And so that's when currency was created. And currency is basically what we would call a proof of work. And, each different region of the world ended up with its own currency, and now we look at it and there's, the euro, the dollar, the Canadian dollar, the Aussie dollar, the British pound, the yen, all of these different currencies from around the world, and they each hold a little bit different value versus each other. That's a completely different subject to go off of, but what those currencies meant was, for instance, in the United States, we use the dollar, and X amount of dollars basically said that the person with X amount of dollars performed X amount of work or sold X amount of goods. And so the currency itself is basically a marker of some sort of value, either work or goods, that you have given to the world. You either gave the work out or you gave the goods out. In exchange, we're giving you these markers that said you did X amount of work or sold X amount of goods. And then you can take that in exchange to go to someone else and say, well, I have X amount of value from goods or work, and I would like to trade that for your X amount of value of goods or work. And so it's still sort of that barter system, but the currency is a marker that shows how much value you have from either the work you performed or the item that you sold, what have you. Jump forward many, many, many years when cryptocurrency started. Now, the point of cryptocurrency is to have a decentralized currency system. And a centralized currency system is what most people are used to. Banks, companies that provide trusted transactions. So say if I want to pay my friend for a car part for my race car, I would say send him some money on PayPal. That is a trusted transaction. My friend and myself trust PayPal to handle that money from me to my friend in the form of that third party. And what cryptocurrency does is it removes that middleman and allows everyone that is working with that particular cryptocurrency to basically be trusted with the knowledge of where all the rest of that cryptocurrency is, who has it, who is spending it, etc. And so instead of the banks and credit card companies and things like that knowing where the money is all going, the people who are participating in a particular cryptocurrency, like say Bitcoin, that's the big one that everybody's heard of, Bitcoin. Everybody who is participating in Bitcoin, the equipment that they have hooked up to the network of Bitcoin, which some people call a node, others call it a blockchain, whoever's hooked up to that, their computer can see all of the Bitcoin that is out in the world, every single one of them. And the way that you can verify that you are technically part of Bitcoin is by your equipment performing an extremely difficult calculation that is completely random and different from any other calculation that any other machine in the world does. And when you complete that, your computer sends the result to the network. All of the other machines on the network check it, and once it is verified, then they say, okay, yes, you're verified, you're part of our network. You earn a tiny bit of payment for that work performed. So, proof of work. And this works on pretty much any of the Bitcoins, any of the Litecoins. The big Litecoin right now that everybody's talking about is Ethereum. And Ethereum is actually the primary reason that we wanted to talk about Bitcoin today. Ethereum is currently the hot ticket in the Litecoin side of the cryptocurrency, and we call it Litecoin mostly because of the type of hardware and difficulty it takes to mine this particular cryptocurrency. Bitcoin has been around for so long, and there's so much equipment that is mining it. The more equipment that you have mining it, the more difficult it is for you to get that little token of proof of work. Because when they send out a new block for everybody to work on, the ones who have crazy amounts of, hardware horsepower are going to be the ones that finish that block quickest, and then it gets verified by the network, and then that person gets paid. And the others that were also working on that same block don't get anything. Their computer just moves on to the next block in the chain, and they try again. That's why the people who are big into the mining want as much equipment as they possibly can, so that they have a better chance of completing these equations quicker than everybody else, meaning that they're getting more proof of work than everybody else, which means they are earning more than everybody else. But it's a two-edged sword, because the more equipment you do add, the more difficult it is to get that proof of work to actually go through. And it's just simply a matter of competition. If there's a race with 5 cars, each car's got a 20% chance to win. If there's a race with 100 cars, each car has a 1% chance to win, all things being equal. And so it's that same sort of thing in cryptocurrency. And because Bitcoin was the first one to start out there, the first one to be mined, there are so many pieces of equipment out there working on it that it actually requires specially built equipment only for mining Bitcoin, machines called ASICs, which are specialty chips. And that's the only thing these machines can do is mine Bitcoin. That's it. They can't do anything else at all. When they are done, they literally are recycled. That's all they can do is mine Bitcoin. But these machines are extremely good at mining it and are extremely powerful. And with the entire world being covered with these ASICs that are mining Bitcoin, the difficulty of it is extremely, extremely high. Now, if we jump down to these other cryptocurrencies, you can still mine those with basically gaming computer hardware. If you have a gaming computer that has fairly modern hardware in it, you technically could mine cryptocurrency to a level that would actually make you money, because they do take into account the cost of electricity and things like that as far as if you're going to make any money, when you're trying to mine this stuff. And your modern, maybe 1 to 2 generations old hardware that is gaming grade hardware can mine and make Bitcoin or Litecoin at such a rate that you're making more coin than you're spending on your electric bill. Because keep in mind, if you have a gaming equipment and you run that thing at full throttle, it's going to use a lot of juice. It's going to generate heat. It's going to burn a lot of electricity. Your electric bill is going to go up a little bit to run that equipment. And so you have to factor that in. Is my equipment efficient enough to keep up and actually earn me something? Or am I going to lose money every month because my electric bill's so high? If I mined $5 in Ethereum Coin, but I raised my electric bill by $10 by cranking my equipment up, I shouldn't be mining because I didn't actually make anything. I actually lost $5 in the transaction, generated a bunch of heat, stressed my equipment because I'm running it full throttle. You're kind of on the losing edge right there. But the other coins like Ethereum, and you probably heard about Dogecoin trying to get started there. In order to mine these other coins, you can get away with the smaller hardware, and that's why they get called Litecoin. So you have the one Bitcoin, the big one that's in the news that, at points in its history have been worth over $40,000 to $50,000 per coin. You have the story of the guy who spent 3,600 Bitcoin on a pizza clear back when it started, and now that pizza's worth several $1,000,000 just because of the way the coin has gone up. But Ethereum in the Litecoin, that's kind of the big dog right now. That's the one that everybody's aiming towards. That's the one that NVIDIA was trying to block miners from being able to mine on the RTX 3060 video cards that recently came out. Drivers were sent out to make it so that it would only be about half as efficient as normal when mining Ethereum. Now, they didn't block any of the other cryptocurrencies, only Ethereum, but that's because Ethereum is the big one. And so they put this block on there so that the miners would want to go after other equipment, and it might help, those cards actually make it to the hands of gamers instead of to miners. It's not really working because NVIDIA made a goof and accidentally released a beta driver that had the workaround for getting around the cryptocurrency block. And so now people are able to mine with their 3060s at full throttle on Ethereum. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot with that one. But the big news is that Ethereum has been watching the trends. And one of the trends they've been watching is the amount of power consumed by miners that have been mining Bitcoin. And in the year 2020, if you took all of the Bitcoin miners in the world, every piece of equipment mining Bitcoin, and you calculated how much energy they were burning for the year, Bitcoin mining burned as much energy as the entire country of Denmark. The whole country for the year. That was equal. So computers mining Bitcoin or the entire country of Denmark. that's not exactly green. You know, that's not very great for the environment, because all of those constantly pulling power, some power stations are dirtier than others. Running a power station, you know, causes a lot of dirt and gunk in the environment. You know, it's not exactly a small carbon footprint for an entire country. And Ethereum has been wanting to make themselves more sustainable in the long term, and so the folks that were responsible for starting Ethereum in the first place have been wanting to change from their proof of work, you know, the I performed work so I get paid a little bit of coin. They want to get away from that to something that's called proof of stake. Now, proof of stake doesn't require mining for it to work. It works a little bit more like a stock exchange, and it can be a little bit tricky. There is some risk to it, and the risk is what keeps the value of the coin from exploding, just from being proof of stake instead of proof of work. Because proof of work, the value fluctuates based on how many people are mining it, you know, how many blocks have been added to the blockchain overall, things like that. With the proof of stake, it's much more like a stock market. And what happens is, when you're part of the proof of stake group, you're basically like a broker in a stock exchange, and it's half brokerage and half betting. So the long and the short of it is, each round of what do they call it? It's part of the blockchain will mature every so many minutes or every so many hours. The next block in the chain will mature, and there's going to be more than one block that could mature. And so what it is everybody that's involved in that coin, they will take a bet on which one of those blocks is going to mature. And the more people that vote for the particular block, the more chance that that particular block will be the one that matures. So you might have, say there's 10 blocks coming up for maturity, you know, each person's going to vote on whatever one they want, and say number 7 gets a majority of the votes, it's the one that gets turned into a new block. The people who bet for that one get a payout. The people who did not bet for that one lose the money that they betted on it. And so, you'll never actually know who's going to be betting on what, because it's all done with the computer, and you really don't have a lot of control over it. And the way that this is kept secure is a form of checks and balances. Each transaction that is made, much like the proof of work, all of the other computers that are attached to that particular coin, they will check the work of everybody else. And that's what keeps it secure. That's what keeps you from being able to hack and say, oh, I all of a sudden have 50 Bitcoin that's, you know, worth 50,000 a piece. And so what happens is, your computer announces, you know, I have this result from the betting or from the proof of work, from the equation that you got. Your computer announces, here's the answer I got. The other computers check it, and then they will verify, yes, we agree with that. That is when you are awarded your piece of the coin. And it's usually a tiny little percentage of the coin, just because by now pretty much any of the Bitcoins that are worth mining, there are enough people mining them that each proof of work or proof of stake that you do get is only going to be a small, tiny little percentage of a coin. And so in both the proof of work and the proof of stake, they kind of have their own security built in, by the only way that you get paid is for everyone else to check your work. And it makes it, you know, very secure. But the big thing about this is, with Ethereum possibly making the move to proof of stake, there are a lot of video cards out there, modern video cards, desirable video cards that are sold out around the world, that gamers and developers and graphic designers are trying to get a hold of. They can't find them. They're sold out everywhere. If Ethereum makes this change, people will suddenly not be mining Ethereum. Now, they do have the choice to go and mine these other coins that are still going to be proof of work instead of proof of stake, and so the hardware still could be put to work. But what a lot of experts are thinking is that if Ethereum makes this jump, a lot of the people that are mining Ethereum are just going to switch over to the proof of stake and sell off all their hardware and keep only what they need to be able to run the software for the proof of stake style stuff, which is much, much, much less. And so we're possibly going to be seeing an influx into the used market of a ton of fairly modern graphics cards, especially from the NVIDIA side of the house. The RDNA2 architecture that the AMD cards use, that's how they do their calculations. It's a programming called RDNA2. It's not very good at mining. People have tried to mine with it, and it's nowhere near as effective as using one of the newer NVIDIA cards. Basically the style of processor, like how the processor thinks, is what matters, and NVIDIA's cards do that particular style of processing, and that's why everybody wants, say, like the 3060s to do the mining, because one, it's a fairly power efficient card, and two, the chip that's in it does perform these calculations pretty quickly because it's the right style of calculation. And so there's the possibility of there going to be a ton of used NVIDIA hardware of modern generations, current generation or maybe one generation old, showing up on the used market, which is going to be fantastic, because all of these gamers that have been trying to get cards for months, like literally since last August, they are going to suddenly have a lot to choose from. And this is because, one, the used market is going to be flooded with hardware. A lot of people are okay with using used cards. They hop on Craigslist, they hop on Facebook Marketplace, eBay, whatever the market is for your region, cards are going to start popping up if this happens. And we discussed in our previous one, most of them are probably going to be safe to buy. You may have to, fix a fan or something like that, but the silicone itself, the chip itself, should still be fine to run as a gaming piece of hardware or for doing your video rendering or what have you. And so there's going to be an option for people to go, well, I can go new or I can go used. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to go towards that used market just because of the pricing. Because a lot of this equipment's only going to be a year or two old. It's still going to be the new stuff that's out. And so why spend, $500 for an RTX 3070 when I can get this used mining one for $250 because there's 600 of them for sale? The only way you're going to sell a used card is to market low. And so a lot of these cards are going to be popping onto the market at great deals. And that's going to help the new market, because some of the people that are into buying those cards are going to be able to buy them used, meaning they're not going to be buying them off the shelf. That's going to allow retailers and e-tailers to get their stocks built back up in preparation for those other people that do want to buy a new card. Say if you're somebody in the position of Gomish Technologies, where we build systems for people, unless they specifically say that they want a used part, we want brand new parts. We want to have manufacturer's warranty backing us up. And so some people are okay getting the used part. Others, like builders like us, builders that are selling our product, we want new hardware most of the time. That way we have that warranty to fall back on. If something fails in that machine, then we can cover that by warrantying that part because it was a new part and we were the ones who installed it. And so the entire market will fill back up. People who've been trying to get cards for months will suddenly have options. I can get a new one, I can get a used one. I'll probably have several different styles I can go after. And so this is, this is very, very big news as far as, the gaming market especially. The stuff that Gomish Technologies deals with is a lot of the high-end builds, and a lot of our customers are suddenly going to have options. Right now, it's literally get what you can. Hope you can get something. And if Ethereum makes this jump away from proof of work, I think there's going to be a lot of equipment that is going to come back into the market and, hopefully push some prices down. And, maybe some folks like us can start making some good deals on new systems for people, just because the products will actually be there for us to choose from. Now, there are some things going on in the world right now that are affecting silicone prices and supply. Most of the stuff that we deal with currently is in pretty low prices, and so even if the prices of some of those items do go up a little bit, they're not going to be unreasonable, like things like graphics cards. AMD processors also were very unreasonable with a lot of their pricing unless you can get them from specific retailers. And so we're not seeing that that's going to shake up the market too much. One of the big ones, Samsung had announced they had a silicone shortage as far as solid state storage drives. But I've been watching the market over the last few weeks since their announcement, and the price on those really hasn't fluctuated too much, so I don't think that one's going to be a big dent. I really don't think it's ever going to reach the level of ridiculous prices that graphics cards are right now. Double and sometimes triple MSRP for a new graphics card, depending on model, and that's, to me, just silly. There's no reason to spend $3,000 on just a graphics card when the entire rest of your system plus the MSRP of that card was still less than $3,000. That's just ridiculous. Some people are doing it, but most people out there aren't, and they shouldn't. But as far as stock and stuff goes for this equipment, a good place to look is pre-built systems. Places like CyberPower, iBuyPower, Redux, these are all manufacturers that are on a larger scale than what Gomish Technologies is. And so they were actually able to get allotments of a lot of this hardware, and whenever new hardware goes out, they don't go to where the highest demand is. The hardware goes to where the allotments are. And so certain builders have enough of an allotment out there that they're still getting graphics cards if you want to order a pre-built system from them. So you go in, pick your hardware, and oh look, it comes with an RTX 3080. Awesome. And most of these places don't have a big markup on parts. Generally, the build quality is fairly good. Linus Tech Tips has done several videos on a lot of these pre-built and boutique-built companies, whether or not the service you get is good, whether or not the computer you get is good value. So if you want to check him out for that kind of stuff, he does some really deep dives on some of the big companies out there, and you'll be surprised which ones actually come out shining in the end. The big names frequently fall on their face. And so it's definitely worth a watch. Check out LTT for that. But yeah, currently, it might not be a bad idea to go to Best Buy and check out that iBuyPower or CyberPower machine sitting on the shelf there. It might have a decent video card in it, and considering the prices for things like RAM memory and solid state drives, if you get one that's kind of on the low side for RAM, you can very cheaply upgrade it to some really good stuff and have yourself a pretty fine system at prices pretty close to what MSRP would be, and you'll still have the luxury of having a manufacturer's warranty behind it. So right now, that's looking like the best way to go. Hopefully something will start happening in the Bitcoin thing here, like this Ethereum, and we'll start seeing some cards trickle onto the used market to start driving those prices down and allow stock to build back up for new hardware. Fingers crossed. We do building, and we can't build if there's no hardware. So for us, this Ethereum switch could really shake things up and help us out a lot. So we'll try to keep you informed on what happens in the news regarding this in the future, and any major developments. We'll see if we can't put out a little tech talk and get you informed. If you do have any questions and want to learn a little bit more about this stuff, feel free to message us at our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Gomish Technologies, and we try to answer those as quick as we can, and we'll try to get the information to you in a way that we feel you'll understand. If you're more tech savvy, let us know. We can dig even deeper with you, and get you the information that hopefully you need and want, and help you make informed decisions on how you want to work with your technology in the future. So until next time, this has been Tech Talk with Gomer from Gomish Technologies, and check back with us soon for the next little juicy bit of tech news, and we'll see what that is. Hopefully it's something exciting, right? We'll see you on next time. Thanks for tuning in.